how things go. We're going to have an abbreviated show today, about a half an hour, and but we will make it as full as possible during that time. So, Anton, you want to open up uh, our topic today? Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's having a great Tuesday, whether it's morning for you or afternoon or evening, depending where you're joining from. As Kevin said, thank you so much for joining. We love having you here. Please let us know where you're joining from. Love to see it in the comments. Kevin will give you a shout out. He's very good at that. But today we're talking about being stuck in a rut, right? Sometimes you're going through life and you feel like you want to do better. You feel like you want to do the things that you should be doing, but you're just stuck, right? Things are not going your way, whether it be personal, professional. And we'll talk about what to do, to kind of try to pull yourself out. Because the reality is, it may not be depression. Sometimes you may just be in a rut. Sometimes you may be depressed. Who knows? But similar ways to get out of it, whether it be a small rut or depression. Of course, if it's clinical depression, different story. I want to make that clear. You need professional help for that. But the problem with being stuck in a rut is that a lot of the times the things that we need to do and we know we need to do to get out of a rut are things that we don't want to do, right?
Mm,
It's things that we don't feel like doing. They feel like a lot of work. They feel like, you know, we just don't have the energy for it, whatever it may be. Maybe we failed a bunch of times and we just can't take another failure. And it's a really bad place to be. I mean, we've all been there. I don't think there's anybody on the show that's never been stuck in a place where they just don't feel like there's a lot of hope, or they don't feel like they're doing great and they can get out. But we're going to start with the first one being control the controllables, right?
mm,
Sometimes when you are in a rut, there's certain things that are happening that you are outside of your control, right? Sometimes it may be your kids are doing certain things and that's affecting you. Sometimes maybe it's your spouse, sometimes maybe it's your work, whatever it may be. But what can you control? And me being biased in a certain direction, I think you can control your health. You can control the inside of your body, the inside of your mind, the internal factors. And that's not easy, folks. I'm not here to say that that's going to be an easy thing to do. But the reality, there's a lot of external, uncontrollable things that you can't do anything about. So, my first recommendation would be to start working on yourself from a physiological, mental, emotional standpoint, that complete picture of health. And do so by starting small, right? Me and
mm,
Kevin talk about 10% method all the time. And a lot of times we'll come in and we're like, okay, I'm in a rut, whether it be a health rut, whether it be a relationship rut, life rut, whatever it may be. And we're going to write a list of a million things we're going to do on Monday and try to be perfect. And all of a sudden, a week goes by and we're not anything closer to what we were before getting out of that rut because we just put too much on our shoulders, made too many expectations. So instead, pick just one thing, something that you can do consistently without excuse, and stick to it and start making yourself feel better, and let that thing be like the bedrock, the thing that holds everything else together. Like, so that'd be my first recommendation. How about yourself, Kevin?
First of all, I want to welcome Lydia and Mohammed. Glad to have you with us today. Feel free to ask questions, offer comments. And, I was thinking about this topic last night, and, a rut sometimes is what some of us call a comfort zone. It may be a rut, but it's the rut we're comfortable in. And so taking steps to get out of our comfort zone. It may be just something as simple as changing sleep patterns. We may be in an unhealthy pattern with our sleep, and we just need to adjust and so that we can be better about getting to bed at a reasonable hour, to get up at a reasonable hour, or it could be a slight change in our eating, just a couple of things that can be a factor. And but take a step to change whatever that looks like. And like Anton is saying, look at the controllables. Quite often, when we're in this situation, we tend to look at the things we can't control and become frustrated and discouraged because we can't do anything about it. So look at the things we can do something about. And if we look, it's about choices we make, and that's where our power comes in, is making a different choice, and make it small. Don't make feel like you've got to turn over this new leaf, as our New Year's resolutions kind of sayings are. Make a decision to make one thing changed and follow up on it consistently. And what when we were putting the event together, we put out several questions in terms of whether or not you're in a rut, and there are some real telling indicators that you are. And so, really consider it. Welcome, Sharon. Glad to have you with us. Uh, been a while. Welcome, Rick. Glad to have you with us as well. Thanks for being here. So, Anton, have you ever been in a rut?
All the time. I mean, honestly, like I don't know if anybody can say they haven't. Um, it just depends on how long they lasted, right? Like I've been in ruts that were short, maybe a few weeks, and I've been in some that were a few months. I don't know if I've ever been in like a year plus situation, because to your point, like when people are down, some people will kind of try to stay there, or some people will get comfortable. I happen to be one of those people. I start kicking, right? Like I just start kicking, I start swimming, I start doing anything I can to try to get myself out of it, and I start to act a lot. Not always in the right way. Like that's just the reality. But I just start doing everything I can that I can control. I mean, one of the things that I often do is I turn to books. I turn to books for inspiration. I turn to books for motivation, and just hope. I feel like there's so much knowledge there, and there's so many things that we can see that get us outside of our own mind, our own environment, and help us to
Mm.
kind of get into a different place that inspires us to be better. So that's usually what I do. But I really like how you said that being in a rut is in a comfort zone, because a lot of people may not even realize they're in a rut because they just been comfortable being there for so long. And maybe like in the back of their minds they want to change, but then they're thinking, well, that's going to require a lot of work. That's going to require me to change a lot of things that I'm doing right now and break out of my comfort zone. They don't. And it's interesting because I've actually have a friend that is like that. Like they are okay with being where they are, even though that's a very, very bad place and everybody sees it, but they're not willing to like get uncomfortable to do it. Like it has to do with the job. Like this friend, they don't have a job and they haven't had a job for a really long time. And just no desire to try to pull themselves out, and everybody's tried to help, and it's hard. Like you can't pull somebody else out unless they want to. Like
Yeah,
that's a big part of it, because a lot of times we want to help people, but if they don't want to get out of that themselves, then it's going to be a really, really tough situation. So I really like how you mentioned comfort zone. um but yeah, so books, like that's something that I recommend for people to do, is read and or listen to books these days, whichever is your preferred method. But like I said, just keep kicking. I mean, that's the big thing to do. How about yourself? Have you been in a rut?
oh yeah. I have gotten into some ruts that are much like the one in the picture for the event today, where I was very comfortable in that rut and stayed in it. And part of it is not realizing that I was in a rut. And in fact, I think Rick's comment here kind of goes to a part of it. He says, I think we all have ruts. It's how we respond that matters. We weren't promised an easy life. And I think that a lot of people in the pursuit of an easy life get in ruts. They get in a spot where, to a point that they're even miserably comfortable. They're miserable, but it's the misery they know. And rather than try to resist or break out of it, they get very complacent and comfortable in it. And what I find over the years is having people in my life that are mentors or peer group friends or whatever that will I can go to and ask, what do you think? Does it appear that I am in a rut? So getting some feedback. People a lot of times will see it when we are completely blind to it. Welcome, Shanur. Glad to have you with us this morning. So yes, I have been in ruts, and one of the best ways I found to begin to even understand and address it is to talk it out and carry on those conversations with friends. Uh, but I like also the reading part. Sometimes I will be about reading something and it'll hit me in the face. Hey, you're stuck. Maybe you need to be doing something different. And it challenges me. At that point, I begin to consider, okay, well, what can I do to do differently and to change the circumstances?
Mhm.
But what do you think are the dangers of being in a rut?
Honestly, it's as I'm listening, there's two sides to it that I'm seeing right now. Right, we're talking about there is what we do, right? And how we are, right? I think that those are the two components. What we do is more external, and how we are is more internal. And I think that the more dangerous one is how we are internally. How are we looking at this rut, right? Like, are we starting to look at it as like this is the end? Like, this is how it's going to be forever? Like, this is very, thick kind of mindset situation? Or are we going to look at it from a growth mindset situation and say, you know what, this is a phase that I'm going to get out of very soon? I think the dangerous part is people not thinking it's a phase and really feeling like this is the end all be all and that's how life is going to pan out. And you can get into a really bad place of depression. And that's really the cycle, right? Like we talk a lot about stress and things like that. And burnout will lead to this. Like when you burn yourself out and your mind, your body are burnt out, you're going to first get in a rut. Like you're not going to be performing like you should be. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel you know not enough energy to want to change it. And if you're there for too long, that's where depression can set in, and not mild depression. We can get really bad depression. So I think that, to me, I always health, and I always talk about it, but to me, I always worry about how people are from that internal state when they are in a rut.
Sharon makes a comment, shares a little bit of personal example. Says the person has to want to get out of the rut. My husband is ill, and I had gotten myself in a rut. It had to be me to want to get out of it and just move on and do whatever was necessary to help him rather than panic. Is what I initially did. Didn't help anyone or myself. I'm better now by the grace of God. Um, Sometimes the challenge of being in a rut is we lose hope that it can be different. And it is definitely something that can be different because we control our choices and we can make choices that to start the process of getting out of a rut. It may take some time. In fact, most times it does take some time. It's not something you just make one decision and boom, everything is rocking along great. I like Rick's comment. I don't know that everybody will fully appreciate his reference, but ruts are a time we need to visit our 2 a.m. friends. If I'm reading that or understanding what he's talking about, to me, a 2 a.m. friend is one of those that you can talk to regardless of time of day, whatever. They're not just there as a convenience. They're there because they're really a good friend and they're ready to talk and help. So I appreciate that. Being able to get with that kind of friend can make a difference in understanding if you're in a rut or not. And then usually they'll be pretty astute with some thoughts on maybe what we might change to get out of it. It's pretty interesting that people from the outside that are, if we allow people to get close to us, they'll see it before we do.
And I think both of those comments make me think, like, on the other side, not just getting yourself out, but helping others to, get them out. Um, Advice on that is don't push, right? Like, but at the same time, know your friends. We know our friends. We know who can take it and who can be pushed a little bit, and who needs more empathy and just being there for them. But just like a good leader, right? You're trying to change somebody's behavior. Don't tell them what they're doing wrong. They know
Mm.
it. Most of the time, they understand what they're doing wrong. Try to catch them doing something right, right? Try to see the smallest change in the positive direction. Once you kind of talked about it, you've seen some, had some conversations around it, and you see them trying, make a big deal out of it. Let them know how proud you are of them, that they're trying to, move forward no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is. They're taking the right steps, and then really glorify those things. Don't constantly sit there and tell them, like, well, your life used to be like this, your life used to be like this, and now it's like this, and just constant negativity. These people need a lot of positivity, but at the same time, they do need some accountability. So finding ways to set those, whether it be with yourself or with others, finding ways to set accountability patterns in your life and saying, here's what I commit to. And don't make those things be impossible or really big rocks that they got to move, right? Accountability for small things, and then positivity along the way.
Welcome, Ed Mario. Always good to see you, my friend. Glad to have you with us. And let's see. Sharon makes a comment. Says, point taken. I had to take a step back and see the road I was going down, and my husband, praying honestly, has helped a lot, and friends that care. So, yeah, having those people that will tell us honestly, but that will also, and this is so important, whether you're on the receiving end of the support or the giving end, is uh, be ready to walk through it with someone. Be ready to not just say, okay, change this, have fun, good luck, we'll see you when it gets better. You go, okay, I think if you could try this, that it would be helpful, and let's figure out how to help you do that or whatever. The other thing, and this is something that we really need to be careful of, is those of us that are normally in the helping role need to remind ourselves that there are those out there that want to help us, and be open to it, be receptive to it. Um, and when I know sometimes when people try to encourage me, I start trying to deflect it and things like that. Don't do that. The people that are there trying to encourage you need the opportunity. They don't need us blocking their efforts. Accept it, because when we start accepting that encouragement, it helps us move forward. And then one other thought that comes to mind, and this is kind of almost an oxymoron, I guess, but when we are in the greatest need of help is one of the best times to try to help others, because there's a principle that we're going to reap what we sow. And so, if that's the case, then we need to sow help to others, give help to others, because we are told it by the principles that the result will be we will get that return to us. Um, see here. Make sure I see we've got some comments. Ed Mario, in his greeting, talks about together we're stronger, and together we're more than winners. A key thing is together. That's the value of community, of the of being a part of a group, and whether we like it or not, we all are. Um, Sometimes it's just in the form of being part of the human race.
No, it's interesting we're talking about together, and you're talking about helping others. I think that obviously when we're in a rut, our self worth gets diminished.
Mm,
And when our self worth is low, then it's tough to, do some of the things that we need to do to get out of it. But helping others can be a very quick boost of self-worth, right? And it doesn't really require a lot of volunteering, whether it be doing something with friends, something, in your work environment. I think that's a really good advice is when you're stuck, start doing that. Sometimes you can't help yourself yet because you don't have the amount of self-worth needed to even feel like you're worth it. But helping others will start to rebuild that. And sometimes you might even be better for others more than you will be better for yourself. And if you're kind of altruistic, and many of us are on the show, I hear you guys' comments. So looking at it that way, say, I can't keep sitting here. I can't keep being here because then I'm not as effective for others, right? Like that may be a mindset shift that some people need to have when they're in a rut to help get them to that next step where they can focus a little bit more on themselves.
Yes. And Rick kind of expounds or expands on his earlier comment, says we all need friends who will tell us what we need to hear, not always what we want to hear. And he refers back to those 2 a.m. friends. Yes, I get it. Those are the friends that love us and care enough about us to look at us and say, that's pretty stupid. But they will also hang around to encourage us once we start making progress. And Sharon talks a bit about her experience. She says, so very true. I needed the positivity, but I needed someone to tell me that I was going down the wrong road and not helping myself or my husband. I agree, Rick. Sometimes you may not want to hear the truth, but it's necessary. Meanwhile, I have helped others and felt better doing that. So Sharon's experience is echoing what we're talking about. And then I like this follow-on comment from Sharon because I think this is something we miss, and that is faith has kept me going. I never realized how strong I was until being strong was the only choice that I had. And one of the great things about faith is that when we struggle, when it's the hardest for us, is when our Creator can be the strongest for us, because then we're willing to be supported and helped in that fashion.
No, it's interesting. And like sometimes combining the two things, right? Like we're talking about helping others, but then you may think like, who am I to help others? I can't even help myself, like this and that. But the message in church last Sunday was God uses broken people more effectively than all people are broken, in honesty, like in some way or shape or form. Like there's no perfect people, but God works through us the best because we can understand people that are in similar situation better than anybody else can. And even if we're still in them, just ability to understand somebody in it and really empathize with them and relate with them is more than somebody needs. Sometimes that's all they need. Like they just need somebody to understand, somebody to feel like what they feel, and they're going to realize it's okay and start taking steps forward. So just because you're in a bad spot doesn't mean that God can't use you to help others.
In fact, the principle in Scripture is that, and this is part of our universal design, all of us have this, and that is that we comfort others. In other words, however we can help them, we help them out of the help we've received. The value of relationships that we have in our life is that there are people that will come alongside that have gone through what we've been through. And first, they're able to understand. Second, they have ideas, tips that might help us. And in the same fashion, we do the same thing. We've gone through things. It may be that what we're going through now is not what we're going to help someone else in. It's another area. But once we start helping, then it has a positive effect on us to a point that it begins to help us with the area we're struggling with. And sometimes it's kind of interesting that we'll have people come into our life and that we're actually there to help each other. We're helping each other on different things, but we're there to walk through it together. It may be a short time. It could be a short season. But that's the value of community and why we need that community in our lives, whatever that looks like for us, through church, through volunteer service, whatever. But having that community that we can lean on and can lean on us is real important.
Mario got a comment. I don't think it's relevant to the show necessarily today, but I think we can take that for next show and make it a topic. What is the importance of a leader who cares about the development of his team? You want to maybe take that next week, Kev?
Yeah, we could go after that. That's a good topic, good needed conversation.
Yeah, we always
and
get your suggestions, folks. That's always a good one.
and it's related in that uh, caring about others and how, I mean, development is another word for growth. And part of the insidious nature of being in a rut is it usually means we're not growing. We are stuck. And somebody said years ago that if we're not growing, we're dying. There's no static place. And unfortunately, when we're in a rut, we think we're in a static place. We're not. We're not. If we're not progressing forward, we're losing because time and life continues on. And that means we need to realize that being stuck is not a safe place. It's not even, shouldn't be a comfortable place. I understand it gets to feel that way because it is the familiar at that point. And so often we somehow want to take familiar as secure. And just for the record, folks, been around a long time. The familiar isn't secure. It just seems that way at moments. So there is a problem with being stuck in a rut. And sometimes we may not be aware of it. And we need people around us to tell us that we are stuck and that maybe we need to make a change. We need to make an adjustment. So that is definitely a challenge. And
yeah, there's two ways I know we got to go pretty soon, but just as we finish it up, there's two ways that I'm seeing people in a rut. People that are trying to do something about it and they're still stuck, and people that are just giving up and they're not doing anything about it, whether they want to be uncomfortable or they're just done trying. One way or another, like if you stay there too long, you're gonna end up at the later where you're just not gonna try anymore because nobody can keep trying if things are not changing. Ask for help. We've talked about that before, right? If you're in a place where you're trying but nothing's changing, try to change the approach by asking for help. If you've gone to a place where it's just not worth trying, realize that some of that is physiological, some of that is just your action reward kind of measuring going on, where your body, dopamine specifically, is going, why bother? The things that you're wanting me to do are going to not amount to anything. Why am I going to do all these actions if I can just lay in bed and do that instead? So once again, coming back to small wins, right? Getting yourself out to help somebody else, that'll make you feel good about getting out of bed. Going for a walk, doing little things like that, just realizing that sometimes you can't change circumstance, but you can change the way you experience those circumstances. So that's what I meant when I said earlier, like, control the controllables. Your state of being, you can do more about most of the time than what's happening around you. So if you are stuck in a rut, don't forget to try to change the way you feel about it.
Yep. And be sure to consider that ruts take on different forms. And many times but we will become sedentary, we'll become immobile, we'll become complacent. But there are those people that their rut is doing the same activity over and over again, and it's ineffective as well. So don't get so caught up in one view of a rut. But the scary thing is, if you stay in a rut, you will become hopeless, and the mental and emotional, even spiritual implications of that can be very, very big if we just allow it to continue. And so we just really need to be aware. Let's see here. Sharon's got a comment, says, I truly believe that because that is just what I have been doing. Sometimes when I think I have problems, you see other things that others that are going through worse. I was in a supermarket a few weeks ago and had a basket full of items to check out. There was a man in back of me in line. He only had 2 items. I told him to go ahead of me. He was shocked. You never know who we'll meet later on. And about 2 weeks later, my husband and I had gone to the same supermarket. Oh, goodness, got cut off. Let me look at it here. Hold on. Tell you what, technology is great when it works. I was in a supermarket a few weeks ago. Oh, hold on. He only blah, blah, blah. You never know who you will meet later on. And about 2 weeks later, my husband and I had gone to the same supermarket. Surprisingly, there was the same man. This time he had a few items and we had a few items and he had a full cart. Recognized him from the weeks before. Sure enough, he told us go ahead of him this time too, paying it forward. You never know who you've helped will one day be the one to help you. Nicely put, Sharon. That's why the value of being willing and available to reach out and help others. Anton, did we lose you? Just a video.
No, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, I mean, folks, it's just small little things like that can go a long way and they make you feel good about it. I mean, I love it. I love that example, Sharon. Thank you so much for sharing. But we do have to wrap, Kevin. I don't know if you wanna keep talking, but I do have to jump.
Okay.
So
I'll roll for just a little bit longer if the audience has comments and questions. If not, we'll pull it together and wrap it up, and then we'll look at the leadership care about our team development as a leader for our
let's
next
do it.
topic.
Always
All
grateful
right.
for suggestions from audience folks. Thank you so much for joining. Stay on with Kevin, but I gotta run, and I will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
See you, brother. So again, the idea here is that we need to first of all be aware. And if we're in a rut, again, look at the questions that we put for the event. Those are good questions to provide insight into your status. And so look at those things. Be around others that will be honest with you and allow them to be honest and receive it as well as possible. Sometimes it may sting or we may not care to hear it the way it's delivered, whatever, but be open because people can help us if we are open and if we listen. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that we can learn from anyone and anything and in most any circumstance if we are willing and ready. And that helps us to gain an insight. And in particular, you know, my passion for all of us to begin to gain wisdom. And one of the ways to do that is just take the time to listen and hear others and so on. And so our goal today was to just bring to everyone's attention to consider, are you in a rut? And the challenge of being in a rut and the problem with being in a rut is ultimately it can lead to being unhealthy physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually when we get in a rut and stay in a rut. And please don't misunderstand. We're not saying that having something that we do and do well and do regularly is a problem. And there is a difference there. But what we see is a lot of people that are stuck doing the same things, and those same things are not necessarily healthy, and they're not growth oriented. So just be aware and ask yourself, could you be in a rut? And so I was just looking at Mario's comment. And so another topic to consider. Thanks for that. Welcome, Rafia. Glad to have you with us today from Canada. No, Rafia has joined us at different times. So as we really think this through, consider, are you in a rut? And if so, what are the implications for you? And what can you control related to it, and focus in on that item, those items that you can control. Make choices to make changes based on what you can control, rather than focusing on the things that you cannot, and not get caught up and get discouraged in looking at the wrong perspective on it. Because we all have ways to make changes. We all have opportunity to make choices, and we all have something, it may seem small, that we can affect, that we can control. And when we do that, when we make that decision, it can make a difference in helping us move forward. And I'm reminded too that one of the things that we all control, and this can be very powerful to remind ourselves of, is our attitude, is our mindset. And the more that we can focus on keeping our attitude, adjusting our mindset, the better off we are. And we need to be sure and use that choice on our behalf, and to also help others. And Rafia was talking about agreeing that being in a rut's not healthy. So thank you for that support, Rafia. And so move forward. If you're in a rut, look at what choices you can make, and don't try to make one big change all at once. Look at a way to make a step towards making a better choice in a small way to start moving in the right direction. If you're in a rut, consider how you can get out of it, what those steps are. Reach out to different sources. Anton mentioned a book, reading whatever, reading other material. The other one is people. Allow the people in your life to be able to help you out, to come alongside, and at least be a support and encouragement. And in the meantime, if you're struggling, reach out to others to help them in a way, in an area that you can help. We all have stories. We all have times in our life where we faced adversity. We were in ruts. We had a hard time, and we can share with others our story. Sometimes it's just a matter of talking about our story with other people. That sometimes is the encouragement that others need. They can hear our story and how we overcame, and gives them the hope to then make that choice, that first choice, and be able to make that first step towards getting out of that rut, or better yet, getting beyond those things that are causing us to struggle and to begin to get hopeless. All part of the process that we're on. So be ready to, as Sharon talked about, pay things forward. And when we do that, I can guarantee you that it will come back to us in a right time, in the right way, to and bless us for blessing someone else. So unless we've got other questions or comments, we're going to wrap up for the day. I've got, I know Anton had to get going for a meeting, and I've got a meeting, actually 3 meetings right after this that I need to get to. But I hope, as we've talked today, you're considering whether or not you're in a rut and what choice you can make to make a small change to start getting out of that rut and getting to a healthier place. That's a key. And so I hope that you can work towards growth and improvement, and be able to start overcoming even in small ways so that you can indeed move forward. And Sharon, thanks for sharing that it does work and that you've made changes and it has helped. That's good news. And so everyone have an amazing week. We'll be back next Tuesday, and we will talk about the topic that Ed Mario suggested, and that is how leadership can demonstrate care in helping team have personal development. So God bless everyone. Thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. Hope the rest of your week is really, really great. Take care. Bye now.